7 Crazy Stories of Glitch in the Matrix. Okay, so this happened many years ago. My then partner had parents live in Scarborough, England, in which we would visit quite often. Because I wasn't from there when we did visit, we would go sightseeing because there's a lot of history in that area. His father was high up in the local council and had quite a lot of local knowledge, so knew good places to visit. On one visit they asked if we wanted to go to Ravenscar, which is 10 miles north of Scarborough and has quite a backstory. Originally it was used by the Romans as a signal station. In more modern times, 1890, it was owned by a company/family who wanted to turn the area into another holiday resort like Scarborough. They laid down all the roads, drains, etc., and then went bankrupt, leaving it as a ghost town, which is now a tourist spot with only a hotel and golf course left. So his parents drove my partner and I there one afternoon. It was cool because as we drive through the area we could see the roads and marked out areas for buildings. There were pavements and drains, and all in all it was pretty eerie to see it just abandoned. And it looked like it had only just been abandoned. We got out and had a walk around and it fascinated us both. About 3 years later we revisited with my 2 children. They were excited because we told them we'd take them to see Ravenscar and have a walk around the ghost town. This time my partner drove there, and when we arrived we were confused as we couldn't find the entrance when we remembered it was very obvious last time. We drove around for a bit just seeing fields and nothing more and couldn't find it, so went to the tourist information center and we were shocked to find out that we were in the right place all along. We explained to the lady that what we saw 3 years ago was very different to what was there now. She looked at us like we were insane and told us it had never been like we explained. Anyway, we walked around the site and there was pretty much nothing but grass. The odd drain cover, but absolutely nothing that resembled what we both saw previously. By now the kids also thought we were insane because we had described something that didn't exist. My partner and I were both confused, and after returning to his parents' house we asked them what they saw and they also looked at us like we were insane. So it seems that something odd happened that day. Both my partner and I saw something very different to what was actually there, and to this day I still can't explain it. This is a 100% authentic experience that happened to me, and I have never been the same since then. It happened 2 months ago at about 10:30 at night while everyone else, as far as I know, was asleep or just relaxing in their bedrooms. My room is in the basement, so when I want a midnight snack, I have to go all the way upstairs and through the living room to get to the kitchen. When I was going upstairs, I was halfway across the living room when I froze, and it felt like time froze too. There was a dead man on my couch with a bloody bullet hole in his head. He was wearing pajamas and a robe with only one gray slipper on his foot. The other foot was bare. His mouth was wide open like he was screaming, but no sound was coming out. Then I realized he wasn't the only one. Another man was coming from the kitchen going down the hallway to my father's office. He was less distinct than the man dead on the couch. All I could see was a black shadow of a man dragging his ankles with every step he took. There was one final person in the room that night, and I will never forget her because she was the only one who realized I was there, and I knew she didn't want me there. She was in the corner of my living room, just standing there with the most menacing energy I've ever felt, and she was tall, probably around 5 feet 9 inches, so it felt like she was towering over me even though she was a good 6 feet away. I wasn't supposed to have seen this, and she knew, and so did I. After that, everything came back to me at once. I felt all the terror, anguish, and sadness I should have felt during the event but couldn't. Needless to say, I did not get my midnight snack. Immediately ran downstairs and vomited everything I had eaten that day because I have never felt such a flood of emotions come back into me like that. At first, there was nothing, and then I felt everything, and it was the worst experience of my life. I know that someday I'll see that woman again. I don't know when or how, but I'll see her again. I know this sounds nuts, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't believe me, but I just need to know if anyone else has experienced what I have. It felt like I accidentally stepped into another world or dimension that I wasn't supposed to see. Please someone help me. Tell me if you know anything or have seen anything that relates to this story. I need help. I know I sound insane, but I'm not crazy. I know this happened, and I can't figure out why or how. I'm not getting enough sleep anymore. I stay up late and look for answers, but I have nowhere else to turn. I just need some help. At a family gathering at my grandma's house, my mom and I decided to go get some KFC for the family around noonish or so. Once we pulled up to the drive-thru, we waited for a little and nobody was talking to us through the speaker thing. So after waiting, we decided to just pull up to the window. We noticed nobody was there, so we thought, okay, duck it. Let's go inside. As we walk up, we see the whole restaurant looked closed and the doors were locked. Lights are all off and it's empty. No customers, no employees. There was even a row of high chairs that were put up on the counter like when a restaurant is closed. We basically said duck it again and decided to get pizza. After about 20 to 30 minutes on our drive home from getting the pizza, we passed the same KFC and my mom sees that the KFC has cars in the drive-thru. My grandma was expecting chicken, so we stopped to get some chicken. Here's where it gets ducking weird. We walk inside and order, then ask the lady why they open so late. She gave us a confused look and said they've been open since 10 a.m. As I looked around, there were families who looked like they've been sitting there for a while eating and chillin'. I was so weirded out I actually asked a family how long they were there for. They were nice people and told me for about an hour. My mom and I have never said anything to anyone BC. We still don't know WTF happened. I even thought maybe the employees were late so the cashier tried pulling one on me, but the family made me reconsider that. Weird AF, and wondering if anything similar has ever happened to anyone. So, about 8 months ago, I was in 2 places in my apartment at the same time. My wife, 30F, and I, 27M, had been married for about a year when this happened. It was a Saturday morning and I had woken up around 7:45 a.m. because work has made it so that I really suck at sleeping in now, which sucks, but hey, I was up. I figured the best way to use my time was to sit on the toilet and look at memes. So I head across the apartment to the second bathroom. Because I don't want to disturb my still sleeping wife, turn on the light and fan and get down to business. I'm about 10 minutes into my morning ritual when my wife wakes up. She looks over and sees me lying in bed, sound asleep, with my arms up and my hands tucked under my head. She quietly gets out of bed as to not disturb me and goes into the master bathroom to start her morning routine. Now, the thing about our apartment is, when you're in one bathroom, you can clearly hear if the fan is running in the other one. So when she gets into her bathroom, she was confused because she could hear that the fan was on in mine, but as far as she knew, I was still asleep. She finished what she was doing and went back into our bedroom where she saw that I wasn't in bed anymore. A few minutes later, I wrapped up the morning meme session and headed back to our room as well, and she asked if I had left the fan on overnight, and I told her that I turned it on when I went in there, before she woke up. That's when I got a weird look from her, because she was sure that I was still in bed when she had gotten up. She hadn't mistaken me for a pile of pillows under a blanket. She had seen my face and remembered the position I was sleeping in. So, yeah. We were pretty confused, and frankly we still aren't sure what the deal was that morning. It was the morning of my school year in 2014 before I even watched The Matrix or knew it. So what normally happens in my mornings is me being awakened by my mom. My room's door is always opened, and my bed is facing the hallway so I can see my mom when she comes by the door to wake me up. She comes calling me from the hallway like she always does. Being a light sleeper, I was up as soon as she turned around. I adjusted my eyes and lifted my head to see a man standing in our hallway facing the mirror to adjust something. I'm not sure what it is, but it was in his hand and he fixed it on him. He was wearing a black coat, had black hair, pale skin. If you think it's one of us, we're all olive tone, and no special features on his face. I was puzzled, confused, and weirded out. Thinking I was lucid dreaming and I wasn't up. At that moment the man looked at me like he knew I was able to see him and disappeared into thin air. Still to this day gives me chills when I think of it. What weirds me out the most is how I continued my day as nothing happened and only thinking about again when I went to bed that night. I haven't felt like myself since this all started. I've kept the exact same routine for the most part. Still working as I've been classified as essential, still with my boyfriend, still with my family members. But everything has felt off for the past couple of months. Let me preface this by saying I feel perfectly happy and content with my life. I've suffered from depression for a long while but finally have found peace with myself. So to be feeling this way has been so strange to me. But I feel like I'm in a dream, or maybe a trance-like state. And not a very good one. I constantly feel like I'm floating. That's the best way I can describe it. I've never had issues with sleeping and all of a sudden I am now. I've also never had issues with being overly tired throughout the day, but I find it hard now to work even a small shift without being completely exhausted when I get home. When I do finally fall asleep, I never remember it. I usually can recall about when I fall asleep because my boyfriend reads to me every night. But now I have just been blacking out and suddenly waking up in the morning, not really feeling rested at all. Has anyone else been experiencing anything like this? Is something wrong with me, or did our timeline shift when COVID began and make me a different person than I was before? I was a musical theater major and I was working on my 4th musical with the usual people. It was a small program so it was always the same majors, about 12, director, choreographer, and pianist. I saw these people a lot. For a couple months at a time, every day would revolve around these people. Granted, I saw the pianist the least. Probably the last 4 weeks of every show, and the occasional party. Still, enough to, know what she looks like. Anyway, she had kind of an odd jaw that looked like it was sunken in. Not bad, just unique. But she definitely had a distinct look because of it. One you would remember. We weren't super close, so I can't give medical specifics, but over the course of knowing her, I overheard multiple discussions about how it was a medical thing and she alluded to eventually having it fixed. FYI, possibly may have been something to do with her bottom teeth or gums, not necessarily the jaw. During our third show together she told everyone that she would be having surgery on her jaw between shows. Months went by, she got the surgery, I saw pictures of her in bandages on Facebook, etc. We started the next show, and when she came in for her first rehearsal, the entire bottom half of her face was completely different. Now, her chin had a new shape. Almost like it had been inverted. Her bottom lip was bigger and her cheeks were rounder. If I hadn't had the knowledge of who was walking through the door, I wouldn't have even guessed it was her. However, I didn't think anything strange of this. I knew she was getting this surgery, and I knew her face would look different. It didn't get odd until a couple weeks later. I was thinking about her surgery and went on her Facebook to compare old and new pictures. Stalking people's Facebook is a favorite hobby of mine. But as I scrolled further and further and further back, the face never changed back to the old, sunken-in chin. No matter how far I went back, she had the new post-surgery chin. I was so confused. There were even pictures of her that I was in, that I had looked at many times before and remember her having her old chin in, with the new chin. I truly couldn't believe what I was looking at. At the next rehearsal, I spoke to my 3 closest friends about it. I told them exactly what happened, and asked them to tell me I wasn't crazy and that her chin looked completely different than it did before. All 3 of them told me that her face had not changed at all after the surgery, and she looked almost completely the same. I still wonder about it every time I see her on Facebook with a new chin. I can still see that old face so clearly in my head. It's so odd, and nothing odd like that has ever happened to me otherwise. I am so glad to at least be able to label it as a glitch and express it to people. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to press like and subscribe.